becomes that explanation. It becomes the reason why you can have slavery in a land of freedom.
By the 1850s, there were 4 million slaves in America. And across the nation, the issue of slavery was becoming a burning topic of debate. But it was in the state of Illinois that the issue was to become most dramatically focused. At the center of the controversy was Senator Stephen A. Douglas, who at just over 5 feet tall was known as the Little Giant. One of the most energetic and powerful voices in the Senate, Douglas had strong pro-Southern leanings.
It is true that my wife owns about 150 Negroes in Mississippi on a cotton plantation, but the public have no business with my private affairs.
In 1854, in part to benefit himself as a Western landowner, Douglas wrote a bill for Congress that let loose a firestorm. It was called the Kansas-Nebraska Bill, and it divided the Western Territory into 2 huge regions, Kansas and Nebraska. The ban on slavery in those territories, which had been in place since the Missouri Compromise of 1820, was to be ended. Instead, it would be left to the free residents of each territory to decide whether or not to introduce slavery.
Let each state mind its own business and let its neighbors alone, and there will be no trouble on this question.
Among the many who were not pleased was an Illinois lawyer named Abraham Lincoln.
It is wrong in its effect, letting slavery into Kansas and Nebraska, and wrong in principle, allowing it to spread to every other part of the world where men can be found inclined to take it.
Abraham Lincoln was a self-educated lawyer who was friendly, honest, and highly successful in the courtroom. He also had a personal hatred for the institution of slavery.
Whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on him personally.
In 1858, Lincoln was chosen by the newly formed Republican Party to run against Douglas for the U.S. Senate. That summer, Lincoln and Douglas each traveled across Illinois, speaking to large crowds at train stops and in meeting halls. At 7 of these stops, they appeared together for what became known as the Lincoln-Douglas debates.
I hold that the signers of the Declaration of Independence had no reference to Negroes at all when they declared all men to be created equal. They did not mean the Negro, nor the savage Indians, nor the Fiji Islanders, nor any other barbarous race. They were speaking of white men.
Our fathers left slavery in the course of ultimate extinction. Judge Douglas and his friends wish it to become national and perpetual. He is blowing out the moral lights around us.
It's not become Mr. Lincoln or anybody else to tell people that they have no consciences. Judge not, lest ye shall be judged.
The Democratic Party has deliberately taken Negroes from the class of men and put them in the class of brutes. I want every man to have a chance, and I believe a black man is entitled to it.
The Lincoln-Douglas debates revolved on the question of American freedom. Douglas takes the very common view at that time that freedom is for white people. Freedom means the right of local communities to govern themselves, including having slavery if they feel like it. The Declaration of Independence, Douglas says this very explicitly, only applies to white people, but not to blacks at all. Lincoln says, no, those principles are for everybody. They're universal. They're not just confined by race. And that slavery is a violation of American freedom. You can't allow local communities to decide for themselves. This is a national issue which has to be settled by a national majority. So in a sense, they're debating what freedom is, whether slavery is contradictory to freedom, and who should decide on the ultimate fate of slavery in the United States.
We began by declaring that all men are created equal, but now we have run down to the other declaration that for some men to enslave others is a sacred right of government. These principles cannot stand together.